If you don't believe in momentum, you might be a believer now. Talking Arkansas football coming off a difficult, excruciating loss against Texas A&M at the wire. A lot of twists and turns in this game, and one in particular. We got Ty Hudson on the line from Hogville, but no time to mope. We got Alabama on the doorstep coming to Fayetteville. Ty, how you doing?
Yo, what's going on, Mark? Thanks for having me, as always.
Absolutely. Well, the play over the top of the goal line, stretching for the goal line, fumble, scoop, and score. It looks like it's 21-7 Arkansas. Instead, it's a 14-13 game. I think pretty much that was the turning point. Would we agree on that one?
Yeah, a lot of rhetoric, local radio and people around here talking about, well, that one play can't define the whole game. And, A&M did just enough to win the game. Fair enough. But no, that one play, absolutely. I mean, it had such a massive impact on this game. It is weird. It kind of feels like this game boils down to a small handful of plays, missed field goal, missed the first and goal from the 3 yard line, whatever it was, the 3 yard line. And you do a Superman leap over the dog pile for whatever reason. And you turn the ball over. That, ladies and gentlemen, is why you don't do that. Nothing against KJ. KJ's been a spectacular quarterback. I think he really thought he could leap over that pile, but clearly he was very short, and A&M saw the mistake, and kudos to them for making the play and not just that heads up play, but then the heads up play to hand the ball off, which I think is what happened on that exchange. To hand the ball off and then run down the field and pick up 7 points. It was a momentum killer. Arkansas clearly struggled to recover from that, and we've seen it before in Arkansas. We have before the Sam Pittman era, though, where something like that would happen, and it felt like that was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back, even that early in the game. But Pittman's teams don't give up, and they don't give in, and they did keep it a fight. The defense did what they could to keep this game level, and didn't give up a whole bunch of points. Again, A&M is I think you and I have talked about that a little bit last week, if I recall. A&M's not a great offense. They've struggled. Max Johnson is a sub 55% completion type passer. Their offense outside of A-Chain, kind of anemic. So I had a feeling it would be low scoring. My prediction was, I think it was 30 to 21 Arkansas. But at the beginning of the year, I chose this game, and despite some of the rhetoric hurled at me, I picked Arkansas to win or to lose this game in my too early or my preseason pick. I think it was my too early pick and my preseason pick. I could be wrong. I don't remember. Yeah, it was, because I went from 9-3 to 8-4. So I stuck with A&M winning or winning the game until the week of, and I did a reverse with what I did with the Longhorns a year ago. I said, no, I think Arkansas wins this game because of what we've seen on offense, despite how bad their secondary was. It felt like a mismatch. I still think it was. I still think Arkansas is a 10-point team better than A&M, if not more. But, it just was one of those weeks. It was a perfect storm, and A&M capitalized. They were the better team on Saturday.
Yes, so to defend KJ Jefferson and any athlete in that situation, I got to remind myself of this. This is my theory. Part of what makes him so super confident in himself and allows him to do all the things that he does in developing his skills and going out there is also going to play into I can do anything. So there's the defense there. And drives me crazy. Guys diving for the pylon, stretching out the ball, fumbling when it's like you can take a 1st and goal at the half-yard line. That's okay. But again, one of the things that makes them super confident and that alpha dog is also going to play in that kind of situation. The other thing is, I don't know how many times you've seen the last field goal, but have you ever seen the ball hit the top of the upright? I don't know that I've ever seen that.
It's the most Arkansas thing ever. I mean, for that to happen like that. And Cam Little he's such a good kid, man. I like Cam Little a lot. He's a good dude, great teammate, I hear, and he's real coachable and I've heard nothing but good things about him, and I felt so bad for him the way that went down. And last year he was so good as a freshman kicker, or as a kicker. Period. I mean, he was damn good for Arkansas a year ago. Seemed automatic. For that to happen, I think now he's 50% on the year. He's 2 of 4 on the season. If I looked at that correctly. I've never seen anything like that. And the first thing I thought in the back of my mind when me and my neighbor were watching the game here in the living room, the first thing that popped up in the back of my mind was that's the most Arkansas thing ever to end a game. That was it. Because I've never seen anything like that before.
Got Ty Hudson on the line, hogville.net. Get on over there for your Arkansas football coverage. And right here on YouTube, Hogville.net. You see it right there, right here on YouTube. Now, take me through the situation. Hopefully you recall this because I had somebody ask this on our call-in show after the game, and I couldn't recollect because, as is typically the case, I'm watching 3 games at the same time, and I'm not keeping track of everybody's timeouts and so forth and so on. But they said that Sam Pittman called timeout before the kick. Again, that blew past me. I just watched the kick. That he called a timeout before the kick. They should have had plenty of time to get out there, kick the ball. And there was about $1:20 on the clock when they turn it over on the missed field goal to Texas A&M. I'd have to go through the play-by-play and, again, the math of the play clock and all that to figure out if they could have gotten the ball back with an extra timeout.
So I think they would. They had 1 timeout left after that. And forgive me, I have not gone back and watched that game yet. We're recording early Monday morning. Well, early for me, Monday morning. I haven't had a chance to go back and rewatch the game yet, but yeah, I think he even in the post game kind of talked about that a little bit. Some of the clock management issues, which has not been a problem with him here. I mean, it feels like they've done a pretty good job with their clock management. Maybe I'm remembering it wrong. My memory does suck long term, and if I don't, I've got to rewatch stuff, which is why I do. I haven't rewatched this one, but I think they had time. They could have gotten the unit out on the field and been just fine. So I saw some people comment that he iced his own kicker, and I mean, maybe I don't know. Again, I'm sure someone will watch this and they'll correct us down in the comment section, which is fine. I hope they do so we get it right. But yeah, I think they had time to get the field goal unit out on the field, and you could have had 2 timeouts, giving them the ball back, assuming whatever happens after that. But yeah, this whole game, like I said, it just felt like a perfect storm. It felt like, and I'm not accusing at all of Sam Pittman being anything near as awful as Chad Morris, but it felt like one of those type of games where they were, you had the turnover. They only had the 1 turnover, but and then it just was sloppy. Some of the play calling on the offensive end, and then maybe the clock management issues at the end of the game. It had that feeling to it. Not only that, but Arkansas is a better team than A&M. I stand by that. They're a more complete team head to toe than the Aggies, even though the Aggies now have 2 straight ranked wins. One of their ranked wins came against Miami. What the hell happened to Miami on Saturday? They got curb stomped by who? I clearly believe Arkansas is a better football team than the Aggies, but it was just one of those situations where it was just a perfect storm. And A&M, you have to give them credit. They were better on that day, but I still feel like Arkansas just gave this game away, and we could look at several situations, but again, it feels like there were maybe 5 plays, maybe 4 plays where if they'd gone a different way, Arkansas wins this game easily. But what happened. And it's our job to discuss it, the following Monday.
Well, here's the deal. Obviously, after something goes wrong, it's easy for people to pile on and figure out you should have done this, you should have done that.
For sure.
Some of those things can be obvious in terms of, that was clearly a mistake versus just, do you let the field goal unit go out onto the field with the play clock rolling, or do you call the timeout to make sure everybody's set? So if there's 2 or 3 seconds left in the game, the timeouts don't matter at that point. Nobody can call timeout. It's the last play of the game, let's say. Yeah. You call the timeout. If you don't feel comfortable about just trotting your field goal team out there, let's make sure everybody knows their assignments. We've seen a blocked kick in the SEC, Florida State LSU, into game. Yeah. So everybody understand your assignments, lining everybody up and calling that timeout to make sure. Now, in this circumstance, again, if you run through the math, I guess I have to do it, and I can't do it right this second. But the play-by-play, yeah, that was their second timeout. They did call one when Texas A&M got the ball after the field goal, so that was their second of they. So they would have had two timeouts when Texas A&M had the ball instead of one. Yep. But it was a decision as to whether do we not rush everybody out there, but just kind of let everybody go out there, try the field goal, or do we take the timeout, try to make sure everybody's set, everybody's settled, everybody understands their assignments? And so he chose one of the two. I don't find any fault in that, although you should be able to get out on the field. It wasn't a rush situation. It wasn't like the clock was running and there was 7 seconds left, like you see a fire drills every so often, and you've got to rush everybody out there, and nobody's got timeouts, the clock's running, you got to get out there and just snap and kick.
Yeah.
So, all right. Bama's coming in. You talk about wins that have been tarnished. So they've got one against Texas. Didn't lose to the worst team in the world. We're not comparing Texas Tech to Middle Tennessee by any stretch in an overtime game versus getting curb stomped by 2 or 3 touchdowns. So difference there. So no knock on Texas Tech, but maybe Texas isn't quite as good as what they showed against Bama. But Bama's Bama, and here they come after a 52-point win against Vandy. But, like we talked about, and people are talking about this across the SEC, across the country, even with the Texas A&M loss, that this was, one of those 2 or 3 games that if Bama was going to trip up, this might be the one.
Yeah. I've had a hard time. I've had a hard time buying into that because, as I've reminded my audience so often, the last time Arkansas beat Bama was the year I got married, which is 2006. And since then, Arkansas has not beaten them clearly. And listen, they've done that to a lot of teams, but they have lost to the Aggies. They have lost to Ole Miss over those years. They've lost to some teams when you thought, well, maybe Arkansas is better than those teams that Alabama was losing to. And A&M last year is a great example of that. Arkansas was better than A&M a year ago. Clearly, they beat them head to head. But yeah, I think the great equalizer here is Fayetteville. And that's where a lot of people, well, they've got them at home. They played them so well on the road a year ago, which is true. I mean, they lost that game just by 7 points a year ago at Alabama. But Alabama has seen this type of environment and then some. Like, they're not going to be shell-shocked in Fayetteville. But Fayetteville is loud. I think it's one of the most underrated crowds. And I only say that because I've had the opportunity to talk to people who have been to other stadiums who say the same thing. 2 former Alabama Crimson Tide quarterbacks have confirmed that Fayetteville is one of the most hostile places they've ever played in. And there's going to be a lot of people there. Despite that loss, unfortunately, I don't think it's going to be as wild as what it could have been with dropping the A&M game, but it's going to be crazy. I'd guess 73,000. It's going to be wild. And Arkansas fans at 50,000 are loud. 72 plus is going to be crazy. It's going to be insane. I could be wrong. They might even break the attendance record. I don't know, but doubtful after what happened last week. But that is the great equalizer here, I think, for a lot of fans. I'm not saying that is the case, but fans certainly see it that way as well. It's at home. We played them good last year on the road. Arkansas still looks like a great rushing attack like what they had a year ago. They finished in the top 10. Right now they're 10th in the country in rushing yards per game. So there's some positives here to look at this game, when you see the matchup. But then again, Alabama on defense, they're good against the run. They're good against the pass. They're kind of getting it done in a lot of different ways. So, yeah, it's I feel like I say this every week. It's going to be but it will be a fascinating matchup. But right now on Monday, the 26th, I'm not putting all my eggs in that basket of this being an upset yet. I need to watch some more film, watch some more game, and look at some more numbers. But I think it will be a loud, crazy environment.
Ty Hudson, Hogville.net, Hogville.net right here on YouTube. Check it out. Arkansas football coverage. The Hogs taking on Bama at home coming up this week. Is there anything else from the Texas A&M game that causes you concern? Did anybody step out? Did anything change about your evaluation of this team? It doesn't sound like it. You think
No.
10 points better than Texas A&M.
Yeah, no, I think there's still, and look, I get hit every time I'm on your show. I get people that come over to Tuss Talk with Ty YouTube or Hogville, and they scream at me about being negative. Man, I picked them 9-3 or 8-4, and I still feel like they're an 8-4 club. I think Saturday was just, like I said, a perfect storm and A&M took advantage. And like Sam Pittman said in his post game, or when he was talking to his players in the locker room, he said A&M was better than us today. And that was the case. I feel like 8 times out of 10, Arkansas wins this game. And then probably 5 out of those 10, they win by 14, 17 points. Now you can call me a homer. I don't really care. But if you watch that game and how it was going up until that fumble, yeah, Arkansas was about to really open this thing up. They ran all over A&M. And I will say the play calling, once they get on the other side of the field, on the Aggie side of the field, got bizarre. They go from, and I asked Dudley Dawson, who's a writer at Hogville for us, I asked him what he thought about the running back distribution, the different running backs. Dominic Johnson, who finally got to play this year, got just 5 carries in this ball game. But in all 5 of his carries, the dude shot out like a cannon. I mean, he was wonderful. All the running backs were. Hell, Rashad Dubinion had 2 carries for 17 yards. He looked really good. Dominic Johnson carried the ball 5 times for 32 yards. AJ Green 9 for 36, Rocket 17 for 68. A little bit uncharacteristic for him to not be north of 5.5 a carry, but they were running easily up and down on the Aggies. It came down to, again, the KJ fumble. I think it just deflated this team a little bit on both sides of the ball, but mostly on offense. And then the play calling decision, the decision making or the situational awareness by Kendall Briles, where I think he felt like they were still doing just fine, and he could do these little trick plays with Malik Hornsby or these double reverses or the reverse pass, all this stuff. He gets cute on their side of the field. A lot of fans not happy about it, and I agree with them. Just keep going north-south. I think they were doing just fine. And the missed snap, too, by Stromberg. I don't remember if it was second and short, but that was a huge moment there that people aren't talking enough about, and that's what set up the ending, if you ask me. But overall, I think if Arkansas had stuck to their game plan, north-south run game, not gotten cute, again, you could pick out just a few of these little moments. Arkansas wins this game pretty easily.
Yeah, I haven't looked at the play-by-play to figure out how many yards that cost them. Had to cost them 10 or 12 yards on the field goal.
Yeah.
Something like that. And last week, Ty, I was actually going to ask you about Dominic Johnson coming back into the lineup. Of course, he was technically the starter above Raheem Sanders prior to getting hurt, correct or no?
No, I think it would have been Rocket and then Dom John, and then AJ Green, and then take your pick. Of course, Dubinion. We got another kid, James Joyner, who honestly I think is a capable number 2 back, maybe even a starter in certain places in the SEC. Well, maybe not starter, but definitely a number 2 guy. Their backfield is just loaded. But yeah, Dominic would probably have been at certain points last year was the starter, and of course it's hard to say too because he was in a knee brace all offseason, all through fall camp. He was in a knee brace. He was in a green jersey, which is the no contact jersey. When I've been there, he looked fragile at certain times. But then the weeks when they took the jersey off and they kept the brace on, you could tell he wasn't really himself. And then when he got the brace off and you watched him run, it was like this guy's ready to go. And Rocket was the starter, and I think he probably would have been. And you could see that evidence is clear. I mean, Rocket I think he's still the SEC's leading rusher, if I'm not mistaken. But Dominic would have been it would have been nice to have him earlier in the year, but they were undefeated coming into this game, so it's not like a huge necessity. But it's so good to see him back out there, and I hope he's a bigger part of the game plan next week because I think they're going to need him.
Warren Thompson went up top for a big touchdown.
Great play by KJ. I love that you're asking me about that, by the way, Mark, about my guy Warren Thompson. He's not been that. I'll be honest. He's struggled this year. He's got a few drops. Shocker. I know he's got some drops, but man, he finds ways to get open. And of course, some of that's KJ extending the play, rolling out of the pocket, something KJ does so well. He is. It seems like when you really need a wide receiver, someone's there. Whether it's been Matt Landers, Warren Thompson, Jaden Hazelwood. Earlier in the year, Trey Knox. And we're seeing less Trey Knox, which is unfortunate, but it's also a good thing because it means your receivers are finding ways to get open, and KJ's making, he's finding them and they're in rhythm. But I think Warren, that's got to be a game for him where he can build off of, get a little bit of confidence going. They've talked about that a lot. We're hearing the players talk about confidence. They were talking about KJ a couple of weeks ago, how upset he was off a bad practice that he had. And then Matt Landers was coming out of a game where, it was coming out of the, I think it was South Carolina, where he had the drop. You and I talked about it. And apparently that kind of hit him. And they've talked about how they've been in their feels a little bit, Mark, and they need these confidence building moments. And hopefully Warren can build off this. And it's weird. Their big plays were great, but take away a couple of bad, and they're in a different mindset today. I'm going to be curious to see how they look. I'm going to be down there at practice today, assuming they allow the media down there. I'm going to be there, and I'm curious to see how they look, because I've seen them out of wins. I want to see what they look like out of a loss, out of a tough loss, a gut-wrenching loss. I'm really curious to see how well or what they look like today.
Yeah, so they lost 9 yards on the bad snap.
9, okay.
Cam Little from 30 to 39, so you're looking at a 33-yard field goal instead, is 7 for 8 from 30 to 39 in his career.
Not bad. I mean, he's been automatic, and it was just unfortunate. And again, I've never seen anything like that. They're calling it the oink doink.
That's good. That's good. It's not good for you, but it's good. You gotta laugh about it at this point.
It's not good, and I hope he doesn't see it. I hope Cam he laughs it off.
I don't want him to see it. No,
but it is what it is.
And they showed him on the sideline for so long after that kick, and I'm guessing it was the holder sitting next to him, talking to him. And what do you say to somebody? You're amazing. We wouldn't be here without you. You can say all those cliche things, and they might be true, but what do you say?
I mean, some of it from some media people, and I think there's some truth in it. It shouldn't have been in that situation to begin with. They shouldn't have been in that situation where they needed Cam. But you know what? That's the goal that's the job of a field goal kicker. You're out there sometimes. The game is on the line. You got to make that kick. Some folks, again, I was listening to the sports radio around here, and some of the media people aren't happy with him. They said, well, I shouldn't say they're not happy with him, but they're saying that we're not holding him accountable. That's his job. You got to go out and make that kick. I guess you can look at it from that perspective, and maybe I would agree with it. But I don't. You can't put it all on KJ's fumble. You can't put it all on Ricky Stromberg's missed snap. By the way, rare that happens. Stromberg is an all-American caliber type center. I mean, this is a guy that could very well be taken somewhere in the second or third round this year. You can't look at the drops. You can't, you have to combine those things. And that's essentially why we're talking about the game the way that unfolded, the way that we are. Why Arkansas lost this game by 2 points. I think they covered the spread. I think the spread was 2.5. The great teams cover. I will say that, and that was nice, assuming that was the correct cover, or the spread. But I don't know what you say to Cam. I really don't. I don't know what I would have said. I probably would have just said, "Hey, man, suck it up, chin up, and let's get ready for Bama." I guess that's really all you can say. But I felt for him. They showed him and some other players just really hanging their heads, and I felt for them. That was a gut-wrenching loss, especially when you're the better team, and you finally ended that losing streak a year ago to A&M, a losing streak that should not have existed despite how bad Arkansas was under Chad and the later Bielema year. Still should not have had that losing streak that they had. They ended it a year ago, and I think they were wanting to build off of it and do it again this year, start a win streak of their own. Unable to do it. It was really unfortunate, but again, they're going to have to get ready because it doesn't get any easier. The SEC does not apologize. They don't, they're not going to wrap their arms around you and say, "Oh, it was okay." No, they're going to give you Bama the next week. So pucker up.
Yeah, and that's my only concern about this team. I think it's a really good team. I think it's clearly a top 15 team in America, is that when the schedule's brutal, there's always a team or two across the country every year that at the end of the year, if you really objectively look at it, like they're a lot better than 7-5, man. That's a 7-5. I know that the record finished 7-5, but their schedule was brutal and somebody got hurt there, somebody got hurt there.
Yeah.
And then they lost like 4 of those games, like in excruciatingly close fashion. That's one of the concerns here with the gauntlet, that, you could be sitting here. I'll just throw out a record. What are you, 3-1 right now? You could be sitting here 5-3 a few weeks from now, and every loss was like this, and you're not going to be ranked. I'm not forecasting this. I'm just using this as an example. We see it every year. The team's not ranked, but they should be ranked. They're one of the top 15 teams in the country, but since everybody goes by record first and foremost, and you're sitting there with like these excruciating losses to the likes of Bama and Texas A&M, and throw in somebody else.
Yeah, well, it starts, and this was the thing. The A&M game for me was the catalyst. It's ending the month of September 4-0, which, I mean, when have they done that? It's been a minute since they've done that in Fayetteville. But it's also because it's the start of one of the most brutal stretches in college football. A ranked A&M team, obviously a top 3 Alabama team, at Mississippi State, who I don't know where you're at with them. I think they should be ranked. And then at Provo, Utah, at BYU. Say what you want, they haven't looked good lately, but at home they are a different team, and they are pretty tough at home. We saw what they did a year ago, and so many of those guys are back this year. They're going to be welcoming an SEC team, and every time you have an SEC team, no matter what they are, it's always going to kind of rally the troops at home a little bit, creates a little bit of buzz and energy, because you got an SEC team coming into town, and not just any SEC team, a team that is a worthy opponent in Arkansas. No matter what the record is at that point, they very well could be riding a 3-game losing streak into that game. It very well could happen, and I'm leaning towards it being probable right now. And so you're going to have to deal with that crowd. And then, later on in the 29th, you get to go on the road against Auburn, who, don't know what to think about. Well, I know what to think about them, but that's still so long away, or it's so far away. But yeah, the A&M game for me was kind of the catalyst. It's the starting point for, you come out of that with a win. Well, then if you have a close loss at home against Bama and a close loss on the road against Mississippi State, you're still at that point only a 2-loss team, and you're still ranked. But you lose these next 2, you're going to drop out of the top 25, and all that hype and excitement is just poof, gone. And that's Razorback fans. I love them. I love them to death. I am one, but they are probably some of the most fickle fans. And I know I'm probably going to have someone take a shot at me over that. I really don't care. I'm born and raised in Fayetteville. I probably know this better than anyone. Been to a lot of games in the old Barnhill Arena in basketball, Bud Walton, Little Rock, Fayetteville, Reynolds Stadium in Fayetteville. They're the most fickle bunch. Once there's a couple of losses, Mark, the attendance drops dramatically. And you could say that about a lot of places. But it's weird considering Arkansas, when there is hype and there is excitement, you feel it, man. You could feel it down in your gut, all the way into your bones. Like, oh my God, the excitement, it's just palpable. But then when things go bad, or you see a little bit of diversity, or you have a loss you shouldn't lose, it's just all gone. And it's zapped like that. I hope they prove me wrong this year. If they do have a losing streak, that when Liberty comes to town, because that'll be after this stretch, that's your first home game, and then you have LSU and Ole Miss, maybe they'll all still swarm, and they'll want to take part, and they'll want to be there, and they'll still have that energy. But I'm not trying to say that they're for sure losing all these games. I'm not saying that, but that is absolutely a possibility. And I think it's probably more probable than not that they're going to be going into that Liberty game with a tough stretch of games in terms of losses. At Auburn, I think right now you got to feel pretty confident right now, but nothing's a given in this conference.
There it is from Ty Hudson. Get on over there to Hogville.net right here on YouTube, Hogville.net.com as well, but right here on YouTube, you see it right there. Yeah. Ty, appreciate you stopping by, breaking things down for us.
Yeah, Mark, thanks for having me on as always. I hope Hog fans are still excited. Look, there's still so much football left. I love it. Win or lose, I'm excited for Alabama. I think this is a good football team they have in Fayetteville. It's just a really tough schedule. a tough slate ahead of them. But you know what, man? I'm just glad football's here, and I'm glad they at least have a respectable product on the field. And again, I do think they're a good football team. A lot of football left to be played. A lot of surprises, I think, still left in store for the season, not just in Fayetteville, but across college football. It's already been wild.